And a lot of people are wondering how men being disruptive to people around them is an extension of rape culture.
Um, Thank you, friend, for putting that. I don't even know how to even start with this, but I'm gonna do a yes and recontextualize it for guys. Um, yes, I'll sound like mansplaining, but there's a reason for it. I don't know the friend's background, but based on the pronouns and the presenting, they are not biological men. So I'm going to contextualize it as a man for men. That is the purpose of this mansplaining. Okay, guys, bottom line is every act of being a jackass builds on top of the previous one, giving us the false impression that the innocent behavior we're doing that is disrespectful to others is okay. It is not. I personally have done this recently, not being conscious, being more influenced by my type A personality in the videos that I did from the bathroom. Having seen a previous video by this content creator, I got the impression, I don't know if it was directly at me or somebody else, but yes, being engaged in some activity is no excuse for not being conscious of other people's um, boundaries. Yes, boundaries. Because essentially that's what it is. Some people don't appreciate, like the content creator mentioned, people burping in common spaces in front of others, right? Culturally speaking, there is something in, I think it's Middle Eastern culture, that if you raise your the palm of your feet upwards, directed at someone, that is considered disrespect, right? So doing that, knowing that, is a way of crossing that boundary, right? So when we start to see and do these type of things, like the burping, talking loudly, like on the phone in a public space, being just obnoxious in the way you're communicating with somebody, whether it's on the phone or somebody with you, making fun of everybody around you, being rude to the waiter or waitress, just talking like in places that should be quieter, like a restaurant setting, like fine dining, right? Or in the movie theater, or like a library, or like say a Zen kind of a place, that can be problematic when you are very informal. When people like say older than you, that can be also problematic. Taking people for granted, like not respecting their time. All of those, and there's many more, are forms of disrespect. And if you take this attitude of it's not that deep, which is essentially in Gen Z terms, that's what it means, that you're building upon this, this kind of self importance that what you do is okay, that it's not that deep, right? So when it comes to guys, and I challenge this content creator that to be not be so narrow, because this is a universal thing. Yes, it happens a lot in men, but I see it across other gender expressions. Case in point, cougars. They're whatever's going on in their heads makes them think that it's okay to be predatory with younger men. The same way as their counterparts, misogynistic men, think it okay to date younger women, or in the case of gay guys, to date younger men, right? So all of these put together, as you go along in your life and you keep adding to that, that bag of, disrespect, and thinking that each one is okay, then at some point it gets to a point where you start to cross more serious boundaries, right? Boundaries of consent, right? Like, for example, in the bi issue, you know, for, and it's kind of, that one's a little bit tricky because it's kind of, it is understandable that you don't want to discount yourself out of the gate for having been with a man. If you're a man who's bi, Same thing with a woman, which is a little bit more different here in the U.S., but in other parts of the world, it's equally or worse than a bi man. Um, so this is taking into account cultural context. Not everything we see in the U.S. we're going to see everywhere in the world. So please stop thinking of the world in terms of U.S. culture. It's not, right? There's different attitudes around different things everywhere around the world. Um, so when so in the buy issue, sorry, I got distracted. In the buy issue, yes, you don't want to discount yourself from being eliminated from the beginning, but at the same time, you're robbing agency, like this content creator said, that um, you're looking at your priorities over the other person's priorities, when in reality, you should be meeting in the middle, having those difficult conversations of saying, you know what, this is me. I'm a bi guy, or I have been with a guy before, I didn't like it, and giving them the opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want to pursue this relationship, right? And by the same token, if the partner, irrespective of gender expression, is a gold digger, that all they want is, nice meals, to ride in your nice car, for you to pay their bills, X, Y, and Z, then um, then you have the option to step away as well, right? And the reason why I'm pointing that specifically out is because when we get into difficult situations where we feel wronged, then we start using that as justification for poor behavior, including violating people's boundaries and going as far as saying, I paid for dinner, I deserve XYZ. No, you don't deserve anything. Consent is always going to be there. That you need to ask for it, that they need to give it wholeheartedly, and there has to be, wholehearted, like excited almost, um, and that it can and may and it most likely will be revoked if you cross a boundary, right? Um, but again, like this content creator says, it doesn't come out of a vacuum, right? And for me personally, I totally believe this because if you look at the continuity of the individual, that individual in the past was a baby. Unless you believe in bioessentialism, you know, all babies are essentially a blank slate. Do they have predispositions to certain things, including like being bipolar and schizophrenic and this and that? Yes. But on large, every human, when they're born, is a blank slate. So that means that as they're growing and we're excusing poor behavior, and not just little boys, but also little girls and everything else, and every other expression of gender, because it happens even with little girls. Girls that grow up in a happy wife, happy life kind of environment can grow up to be, under princess treatment and eventually queen treatment, where they believe that nothing that they do is wrong. You see a lot of Karens like this. That where do you think it comes from? It comes from, growing up, that they were not given the discipline to be considerate of other people, right? So it's something that we need to look at. For those of us who are older, to look at those attitudes that we have, of, hey, are we being disrespectful for people out in public? Do we interrupt people? Do we do like pass gas, burp, not respectful of people's times, cussing out because of the slightest inconvenience, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like there's so many things that you can possibly do to be disrespectful, not to basically center on yourself, right? And yeah, the more you do it, the more you grow entitled to things and even people and their time and their autonomy, which is not acceptable. And especially when you get into conflict, pardon me, when you get into conflict, um, we tend, yeah, that it's very easy to justify the next poor behavior because we feel wronged, right? So I hope that makes some sense to you guys, and you learned something from that. Let's do better.